Good evening, everyone. My name is Tamaki Tsukada, Director of the Japan Information and Cultural Center. Thank you very, very much for coming tonight to our special event, braving the inclement weather of the past few days. As Director of JICC, I have the pleasure of welcoming you all to the opening of the Meet Netsuke Storyteller of Japan exhibition. Incidentally, today is the official starting day of the National Cherry Blossom Festival. And I would like to, I recognize President of the NCBF, Diana Mayhew, as in our guest. The National Cherry Blossom Festival was moved, in fact, ahead by 5 days. So we are very privileged to be able to present tonight's event as the first event of the National Cherry Blossom Festival of this year. So I would like to thank the prescience and foresight of Diana for moving the opening date by 5 days. The idea of this exhibition was first conceived almost 2 years ago. Our team, consisting of Yoko Tsuge, our chief expert of Netsuke at the embassy, and Takaki Nemoto, and also Helen Van Goren, our staff. These three people have been working since then to pull together this rare and valuable collection of decorative toggles, what we call Netsukes. To realize this exhibition, we have been privileged to have the continuous support of many benefactors and friends. And I cannot acknowledge all of them here, but I would like to especially thank the two special local contributors, benefactors, who have been so helpful to realize tonight's and this event, which will last for 2 months. First is the Garrett collection at the Evergreen Museum and Library in Baltimore. And the other is, of course, the Beverly and J. Hopkins collection in Virginia. And we have the pleasure of having Dr. J. Hopkins tonight with us, who is also the former president of the International Netsuke Society. Speaking of the International Netsuke Society, we thank their members also, international members, who have reached out from literally around the globe with their expertise. We also would like to acknowledge ANA, All Nippon Airways, for their very generous support, especially assisting us in bringing the experts from Japan. Tonight's event could not have been realized without their help, and I would like to especially thank Mr. Yamashita, the Chief Representative of ANA in Washington, D.C. Now, let me say just a few words about Netsuke. I know we have interesting lecture and demonstration tonight, so I don't want to take much from them beforehand. But these are small sculptures which depict snapshots of life in the Edo era of Japan. But it has an appeal which transcends time and space. The allegory and the cuteness resonate with modern sensibilities. I'm sure you will enjoy the rich world of Netsuke through the 129 pieces on display. Today we have two special guests from Japan who will talk about the fascinating world of Netsuke and demonstrate the artistry of Netsuke carving. Master carvist, Mr. Ryushi Komada. He is also the former president of the International Netsuke Carvers Association, and his daughter Makiko Komada, leading scholar of Netsuke art in Japan. Now, last but not least, I would also like to recognize two important partners of ours. First is the Freer Sackler Galleries. Their deep pool of knowledge and connections have helped us navigate through the museum world and bring our vision of an exhibition to life. And I would like to especially acknowledge Dr. James Bullock, who is with us tonight. Thank you very much. I would also like to acknowledge the Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C. We and the Japan-America Society have worked together to develop a catalog containing background information and close-up color photos of all the 129 pieces on display. And I would like to especially recognize Mr. Andrew Wilds, who has contributed to the excellent photography of his. Thank you very much. And also the chairman of Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C., Matthew Goodman, is with us tonight. Thank you very much for your contribution. These catalogs are for sale, and they are in the foyer. So I do hope you take a look at them later on. And by the way, the proceeds of the sale of these catalogs will be put to planting of new cherry trees throughout the country. So much for the introduction, and without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Ryushi Komada and Mrs. Makiko Komada to the stage. Once again, a big round of applause to
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and privilege for my father, Ryushi, and me to speak to you this evening. First of all, we would like to express our congratulations and sincere gratitude to the Embassy of Japan, all the sponsors and collaborators, and everyone involved in this wonderful exhibition and related events. Next, please. Special thanks go to Ms. Yoko Tsuge and Mr. Takaaki Nemoto of the Embassy. That is, this is Takaaki and Yoko and me with Mr. J. Hopkins, whose collection is on display. Yoko and Takaaki have put so much effort into this exhibition project and also have paved the way for my parents and me to come here. And they also wrote this beautiful catalog for this exhibition. Just amazing. Without their passion and devotion, this project would not have been possible. Well, I'm not saying this out of politeness or diplomacy, as they have to take care of me and my aged parents until we leave on Sunday. Or maybe I should flatter them more. Honestly, I cannot ask them more. I think their enthusiasm has been the cause of a series of serendipitous coincidences. For example, as it happens, Yoko, Takaaki, and I were all born in the same year, 1971. And yesterday, I happened to learn that Mr. Yulak first went to Japan in 1971. you see another serendipitous coincidence. I just learned it yesterday. And to me, anyway, Yoko, Takaaki, and I were in the same year. To me, this seems like a miracle since 1971 was one of the most important years in which Americans exerted a great impact on the field of medicine. So I feel that the contribution of the three of us to this project, as well as with other Japanese, including my parents, is returning the original favor of the American people. Then you might think, what favor are you returning to us? What does the history of Japanese Netsuke have to do with us? Indeed, the Netsuke is an aspect of traditional Japanese culture with a history of 400 years. But over the past 160 years or so, Americans have played an enormous role in it. In this presentation, I will tell you what contribution Americans have made to the field, and what kind of friendship we, the Japanese and Americans, have built through Netsuke. My talk will mainly consist of personal experiences and anecdotes of the 4 generations of my family, including myself, since we have been deeply rooted in the field and are fortunate enough to know many important people personally. But I'm afraid I need to start with something that was long before my time. That is the early history of Netsuke. I wish I were 400 years old. Although it's not exactly clear when the Netsuke came into use. Written sources and paintings seem to suggest that Netsuke were used in Japan by the beginning of the 17th century. At that time, our traditional garment, the kimono, was worn every day, and Netsuke served as a togo. This part is in the to suspend a money pouch, indo, or tobacco pouch in the obisashi. In this woodwork print shown in this exhibition, the man is wearing an indo, the tiered container for medicine or seals with a Netsuke. This bead for tightening the cord is called an ojime. These are collectively called sagemono. Next, please. Sorry. These are collectively called sagemono or hanging objects. Next, please. The use of windows spread in the 17th century, and as a result, Netsuke are also widely used. As Mr. J. Hopkins points out in the exhibition catalog, the Japanese seem to have the innate ability to make everything aesthetically pleasing. That is very true. The Japanese were able to make the most mundane things, such as a togo, into a most elaborate and fashionable accessory, together with the items of sagemono, mainly for men to display their taste. Like this ensemble, which is on display, the combination of deer and maple is truly tasteful. I'm not on commission, but you really should read the catalog for more details. In the 18th century, it became popular to wear a tobacco pouch, next please. And this created a further demand for Netsuke. Like this man, it was customary for the man to detach the tobacco, to detach a Netsuke from the obi when smoking, and would then look at it or play with it. This is Netsuke. This is a tobacco pouch. He might show it to friends and probably tell who carved it, etc. So it was like a conversation piece. Next, please. Netsuke could be viewed from various angles, and so most of them are carved or decorated all over, even on the bottom. And next, please. Each Netsuke has a cord channel called himotoshi, which allow a cord to connect it with an indo or pouch. And this could be an opening incorporated into the design or a ring. The himotoshi is a crucial element of Netsuke that distinguishes them from mere miniature carvings. Oh, I love this one. Because this is not a hat, but a sake cup. It's the drum cup. Netsuke are made in a variety of materials and subject matter, often witty and humorous, like this drum cup. And this type of Netsuke depicting figures, animals, or other things is called katabori. And katabori is the most popular type of Netsuke. But over the centuries, several types emerged, including master, box net, manju Netsuke, manju named after a round bean paste bun. Ryusa, which is a manju with alcohol. Kagami buta, usually a metal lid with a bowl, but the lid here is decorated with makieraka. And the long type called asashi, and all of these are on display. Netsuke reached a high point in the 19th century, and even ordinary people lavished money on Netsuke and sagemono. Around the mid-19th century, however, the popularity of Netsuke began to wane, as it became common to use a pipe case made of hard material, such as ivory or wood, and attached to tobacco pouch with a Netsuke. This is a Netsuke of a mask. This is a mask, and this is a back of this man wearing such a tobacco pouch and a pipe case. You see, this is the old visage, and this is a pipe case, and this is tobacco pouch. So there's no need of Netsuke. Okay, here comes the American. For detail, please read the important document by Ueda Reikichi, later adapted into English by Raymond Boucher, but just to give you the gist. In 1853, Commodore Perry of the United States led his flagship to Urawa, Japan. One of the Americans accompanying him was fascinated by a masked group Netsuke worn by Mikawaya Kozaburo, the head porter of the Shogun government. This is not really the Netsuke that Kozaburo had, but I'm showing you this as it gives you the idea of what a masked group Netsuke looks like. The American pleaded with Kozaburo to give the Netsuke to him, which Kozaburo did. There are many ins and outs to this story, but to cut a long story short, following the suggestion of the American, Kozaburo accumulated a large number of Netsuke and sent them overseas. This was the first export of Netsuke overseas, and followed by an enormous amount of Netsuke going abroad in years to come. While some say this caused the loss of our treasures, others say it saved a great many Netsuke from being discarded or forgotten as unnecessary objects in Japan. While one expert says that this story cannot be verified, but I believe it to be true. Either way, America's demand on Japan to open her ports definitely laid the foundation for the export trade. From the second half of the 19th century, the popularity of Netsuke in Japan further declined, mostly due to the shift in clothing from kimono to Western clothes. About the same time, Japanese, or the fashion for things Japanese, was all the rage in the West, while Japanese artistic crafts drew much attention in the international world fairs in the US and Europe. Large quantities of Netsuke and other Japanese crafts were therefore sent abroad and eagerly collected and studied by Americans and Europeans. Against such a backdrop, the Garrett family assembled their wonderful collection, part of which is shown in this exhibition. As explained in the catalog, this book by Susan Tripp and Neil Lady, their collection reflects their interest in Japan and in theoretical performance. So we see many masked Netsuke in this exhibition, including this one with the Indo depicting the tools for carving masks. 1.5 years ago, I visited the Evergreen Museum in Baltimore with the Netsuke Society. And the museum's director, Mr. Abbott, kindly showed us around. This is inside. It is located in a beautiful place, and the collection was displayed like this. I'd highly recommend you visit the museum, since the same Netsuke that you see here may look different in that setting. By the way, the Garrett collection contains one carving for export. In the second half of the 19th century, the large demand for Netsuke in the West led to the production of Netsuke and okimono for export purposes. Okimono are carvings, mostly figural, for display on shelves and mantelpiece. Well, the expression export piece may sound as though it is a costly made, cheap item, but it's not always the case. Next. This Manju Netsuke, carved by Shun Hosai, is one such good example, and it's on display. This is the back. A Netsuke by Shun Hosai is also in the collection of the British Museum, and one of his okimono is said to have been exhibited at the Vienna Exposition in 1873. My father and I were very pleased to find this piece in the Garrett collection because my family has a strong connection with Shinko-san. He was the founding master of the Yanaka School of Carvers, which my family belonged to. Shinko-san, also known as Yamada Chogetsu, learned hidariba or left blade carving technique from a man named Tokuzo in the first half of the 19th century, and encouraged his fellow carvers to use this technique. My father will demonstrate the technique. His top apprentice, Uzawa Shungetsu, further promoted the hidariba technique. Since he had many of his followers were living in the Yanaka area of Tokyo, they came to be known as the Yanaka School. The school employed an efficient system of bungyo, or division of labor, and thrived in the second half of the 19th to early 20th century. In fact, they were so prosperous that they would hire a number of rickshaws, which was equivalent to hiring limousines, to go to parties, view cherry blossoms, and other pleasure outings. Among Shungetsu's apprentices was my great-grandfather, Komada Haruyuki. This is a Netsuke attributed. Although we haven't seen any of his okimono, we have some of his sketchbooks. And this one is dated 1894. His sons, Ryushi and Yoko, learned carving from their father, Haruyuki, probably because Haruyuki was good at carving human figures. Both of his sons, Ryushi and Yoko, excelled at humans, particularly female figures. This one is by Ryushi. This one also is by Ryushi. And this one is from Yoko. In the 20th century, even though the Yanaka school, like many others, had lost their momentum, export Netsuke and okimono were still much in demand. During the World War II, the Japanese government prohibited the production of luxury articles, including ivory okimono and Netsuke. Both my grandfather and great-uncle had to stop carving and took on the work of fashioning pagodite or agaru into electric insulators for major submarines. However, as soon as the war was over, the dealers resumed their work and my family go back to carving. Okimono and Netsuke became popular high-end souvenirs among the occupying troops in Japan. Their popularity in turn helped to revive the ivory carving industry and consequently also revitalized the export market. Sometimes, soldiers would give a bottle of brandy or whiskey to a dealer as part of their payment for the purchase of an okimono. My grandfather would then receive a bottle from the dealer as part payment for his work, which made him very happy. Having seen him so ecstatic, my father, him, who was around, honestly, 13 or 14 at that time, this is his whole idea about that time. He became very curious about the taste of the contents of the bottle. When his parents were away, he sneaked a sip and just loved it. He still remembers it was Martell 3-star. Some decades later, when he was waiting to meet someone at the bar of the American Club in Tokyo, he found the brandy there. He got so excited, had to order it, and of course he still loved it. In 1949, when my father turned 15, of course this is much later, but when he was 15, he started learning okimono carving, particularly of female figures, under his father, Ryushi. This is his first okimono, as becoming independent. Later, my father switched to Netsuke carving. This is one of the very early pieces of his. In a sense, he found his niche in the field because, historically speaking, Netsuke depicting women are quite rare. Next, please. The production of okimono and Netsuke continued into the 1950s and beyond, with succeeding generations of families of carvers and dealers, as well as newcomers. Those carvings were still either for export or sold to foreign businesses in Japan. Among those visitors were Mr. and Mrs. Robert and Miriam Kinsey of the United States. This is the very first Netsuke they ever bought, and it happened to be carved by my great uncle Yoko. They made friends with Yoko and kindly hosted his birthday party at the Palace Hotel in Tokyo. This is Mr. Kinsey, this is Yoko, my great uncle. And this is Ichiro, well, the Netsuke collector's man. Of course, he's not a baseball player, but this is a famous carver of Netsuke. Mr. and Mrs. Kinsey expanded the collection of Netsuke made by a number of living carvers, and particularly, and actually met many of them in person. Those carvers had great skills, but the designs and subject matter were mostly taken from antique pieces, or were straightforward depictions of people or things. In other words, there was not much emotional individual creativity in their works. And if you remember, it was in 1971 that Yoko, Takagi, I were born, and Mr. Yuda went to Japan. That Mr. and Mrs. Kinsey visited Japan, encouraging carvers to create Netsuke of the time using original ideas. This greatly inspired four carvers. My father, Ryushi, when he was in early 30s, and Hangyoku, Rishu, Hideyuki. And it was they who initiated the movement of contemporary Netsuke. This was not just about making modern Netsuke, but also about craftsmen aiming to become artists. For my father, it was more than just carving beautiful women. For example, he aimed to convey their emotions and state of mind through his works. In 1977, the contemporary Netsuke movement blossomed into the establishment of what is currently called the International Netsuke Carvers Association. Now it has a membership of more than 70 artists. Also in 1977, Mrs. Kinsey published the milestone book Contemporary Netsuke. She also published Living Masters of Netsuke in 1984. Thanks to those books and the fact that Americans are keen on new things and are not bound by ancient traditions unlike the Japanese or Europeans, until recently the majority of contemporary Netsuke collectors were American. While Mrs. Kinsey passed away in 2000, Mr. Kinsey not only continued collecting Netsuke with his family, but also showed the collection at many museums in Japan and the United States. Actually, some of you might have seen his collection and remembered his lecture at JICC, right here, in 2009. When I visited him in Chicago in September 2015, he was 99 years old and fondly recalled those events. He even remembered the name of the Japanese ambassador at the time. Sadly, 2 weeks later, Mr. Kinsey passed away. His memorial service, which was held in Japan, was attended by 70 people, mostly artists from all around Japan. The Kinseys have the most well-known American patrons of contemporary Netsuke. As collectors, the Kinseys have had a wonderful relationship with their Imperial Highnesses, Prince and Princess Takamado, who are the most celebrated Japanese patrons of contemporary Netsuke. This photo was taken at the exhibition they held together in Japan. And this is Prince Takamado, Princess Takamado, and Mr. Kinsey. Next, please. The remarkable contribution of the Prince and Princess include their initiative in organizing a contemporary Netsuke exhibition in 1994 at the British Museum in Los Angeles County Museum of Art, or LACMA for short. The princess had said that the prince even did the paper. This successful exhibition not only helped contemporary Netsuke win acclaim in the West, but also boosted the awareness of the art of Japan. That exhibition was also born out of two main endeavors. One was the aforementioned contemporary Netsuke movement. The exhibited pieces at the British Museum of Lachman achieved new heights of excellence and ingenuity in creation of Netsuke. The other endeavor was to overcome the obstacle posed by the ban on the international ivory trade in 1989 under CITES, or the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Many of the Netsuke artists back then were originally trained as ivory okimono carvers. Instead, the poaching of elephants in Africa has become such an issue that it really breaks our heart. In Japan, craftsmen and dealers in the ivory carving industry have paid respect to elephants, and they have even held a memorial service for them every year since around 1926 at Gokokuji Temple in Tokyo, as it will this year. We would like you to know that we have no intention to promote the use of ivory. Although the ban on the international ivory trade has had an enormous adverse effect on the artists, they haven't protested. Instead, they searched for materials other than ivory. Luckily, it was possible to apply the Hidariba carving line and its technique to softer materials such as wood and stagami. Next, please. In addition, Prince and Princess Takamado and the Kings, as well as dealers including Mr. and Mrs. Michael and Kay Spindell of America and Mr. Hirokazu Nakayama of Japan, kindly provided artists with alternative materials such as foreign wood with interesting grains and colors like these. Next, like these. This is actually my father. But a little bit unhappy or jealous because this little kid is my brother, not me. Okay, and also mama class, yes. But this is by my father as well. As a result, materials for Netsuke have become even richer in variety than ever before. The works displayed at the British Museum in London were made of all made of non-CITES materials. And this one was also on show at the time. Just after the end of the exhibition at London, my parents and I visited the museum, since my father was assigned to check the condition of all the Netsuke and bring them back to Japan. Next one. As you can see from this picture, thanks to Robert Singer and our curators of the museum, we had a good time. We can never forget the day we brought back the Netsuke from the museum to Japan. I don't know whose idea it was, but all the Netsuke were packed in a jewelry case typically used for cash. You know the jewelry case. My father was escorted by a guard with a rifle and got into a car with bars on the window. My mother and I got into another car, and both cars were headed for the airport. On the highway, his car happened to travel side by side with another car for a while. In the back seat was a little girl. My father and the girl noticed each other. Through the iron-barred windows, my father made funny faces to amuse her, and she really loved her. I can imagine because he's good at it. Then it got him thinking, what must she have thought of him? Definitely not an artist serving as a courier for important works of art. Maybe an Asian comedian who had committed a crime and was transferred to Then we arrived at the airport and waited at the gate to board. Oh, we stood out. The armed guard and the shiny drawing case. It was like saying, look at us, we have something extremely valuable here. It was very embarrassing, but soon became a good memory. Returning to the contribution of Americans to Netsuke, some Americans brought a new style of promotion and appreciation. In the mid-1970s, two organizations were set up in the United States. Each published a journal and held Netsuke conventions for lectures, sales, and meetings. One is no longer active, while the other, currently called the International Netsuke Society, or INS for short, has grown to have more than 400 members from 30 countries. I am not being paid to say this by the INS, but the journal is a great source of information, and the biennial convention in the US and Europe is one. My parents and I have attended the convention since around 1990, together with other Japanese artists and collectors. We have made many friends we have made friends with many enthusiasts from around the world, for which we are grateful. We are also delighted to know that some members of the INS and its Washington chapter have cooperated with this exhibition and related events. Next. The INS has had, these are next, the convention photos. They do sales and parties. Well, gonna miss it. Next. The INS has had distinguished collectors and dealers as president, and Mr. J. Hopkins is one of them. A part of the collection he assembled with his wife Beverly is shown at this exhibition. Mr. Masanori Watanabe, a Japanese authority on Netsuke, spoke highly of that collection. As I understand, Mr. and Mrs. Hopkins have a liking for antique Netsuke, particularly early pieces that are strong on pieces. They also love Stagampa Netsuke, especially of Ozaki Hokusai. He is a favorite artist of my father and me as well. Hokusai excelled at carving Stagampa, but this one is not Stagampa, but this is the bottom. And his Hokusai's son, Ozaki Koyo, is a famous novelist of the Meiji period. Well, my father was fortunate enough to get to know Mr. and Mrs. Hopkins in 1991. It was at the INS convention in San Francisco that was attended by Prince and Princess Komada. The friendly prince said to my father, "Ryushi-san, there is going to be a workshop on Stagampa, so why don't we go together?" So my father went with him, and Mrs. Hopkins kindly gave my father some pieces of Stagampa material from America. Yes, he's not there. Those pieces had an interesting purplish gray color, quite different from Japanese Stagampa, which is white. The color inspired my father to make a ghost Netsuke out of it, and the prince and princess bought it. I'll show it to you later. Next. The passing of the prince in 2002 was a great loss for us, but fortunately, Princess Takamado continues to collect Netsuke and has been working on a project of taking Netsuke with her when she travels and photographing it in a place that is most fitting or meaningful for it. Next, like this. It looks like walking. It's Netsuke made by my father. Her Highness took this photo of my father's Netsuke made of the Stagampa piece, Mrs. Hopkins. And this is the old residence of Lafcadio Hearn, the famous 19th century author of many Japanese ghost stories. What a suitable place. And the man behind is not a ghost. He is the great-grandson of Lafcadio Hearn. Unfortunately, this Netsuke is not on display, but it reminds me of the title of this exhibition, Meet Netsuke, Storytellers of Japan. This Netsuke tells a story of Japanese ghosts, and the piece itself has its own story. Moreover, it makes us want to tell the story. Maybe it's natural, because the Netsuke was originally a personal accessory and was a conversation piece. Furthermore, the subject matter, material, and artists of Netsuke reflect the wealth of Japanese culture. Learning about them will deepen your understanding of a country. Nets are, therefore, our goodwill ambassadors. In conclusion, Americans have played a significant role in the preservation and development of nets. We are deeply indebted to them. America has always been great in the field of nets. We hope you will hold it in high regard and be proud of it. Thank you. And now on to my father's carving demonstration. Well, I hope you don't mind my doing most of the speaking on his behalf because he cannot speak English. But please ask him any questions you like. But please forgive me for my mediocre ability as interpreter, partly due to my limited vocabulary of carving terms for English itself as well, and partly due to the fact that my father is the king of sidetracking and ad-libs. I might go panic, but please bear with me. As mentioned earlier, my father is a specialist of carving female figures. He has pursued the carving of beautiful face of a woman, mostly Japanese women, such as court ladies from the Heian period or the medieval Japan like this. Or geisha. Geisha woman. Okay, he was geisha. I had to make sure. But he aims to carve a beautiful face that has universal appeal. He thinks that carving the face is the most quintessential part of the art of carving. The face of a beautiful woman is the most difficult of all, compared to those of animals, men, or women in general, like me who are not so beautiful. Next. Furthermore, in his Netsuke, a woman almost always tilts her head to express a certain emotion. The tilted head makes the carving even more difficult. Next. The face looking upward or straight down, just like, just to the right or left is relatively easy to carve. When it is looking up or down, or it is looking up or down toward the right of this gorgeous, like that, makes it difficult, but it still doesn't provide much help in expressing an emotion. It needs a little twist or tilt of the head for that purpose. Moreover, the face and the head need to be fashioned in relation to the neck and color of the kimono, the hair, and anything that surrounds them. Next. Please consider these drawings as outlines of the side view of a woman's portrait. The left one is a good example, while the right one is a bad example. My father will carve both to show you how they differ. To give you some preliminary knowledge, please consider the orange paper, this paper in the middle, as unworked material. My father would cut off the upper left triangle, this part, and plant the forehead below the triangle, right here. Artists who do not have much experience in carving women, particularly with Japanese hairstyles, would plant the forehead at the top of the material. So this is a bad example, and this one is a good example. To shape the nose, or to make the nose stick out, like this, the artist carves the area around the mouth, right here. And the face keeps looking down because you get rid of the area here, so it just the carving would keep looking down like this. Then the back of the head keeps going upward. But the materials were straight, so there is no material on top of the area. There's no place for the back of the head. So if you start here and then if the face is looking down, well, next. Because face is down, carving look down, but actually the original material is within. This part wasn't originally there. It's missing. On the other hand, when my father carved, the top area of the mouth, the face looks down, but if he carved this part, the face looked down. But because he had already made the top of the head as the top right here. So even if it looked down, it doesn't create a problem. Well, maybe better that my father shows me how. じゃあこの顔を取り
はい、これが今解説のあった後頭部。
This is the back of the head.
こうか。ここから見たやつですね。これがこういう感じで彫ってくれば後ろがたっぷりあるので下いくら向いても大丈夫なんですが。
There's enough, the back, the material is there's enough. So even if it keeps looking down, it's okay.
例えばこういうこのおでこが上の方にあると、
If the forehead is on top,
今度下向いてくればくるほど相対的に後頭部が下がったと同じ効果になってしまう。
then it just goes down and then
と言いますと何も取らなくても結局そうなっちゃう。それは、こういう理屈なんです。
It's so hard. I mean, even in Japanese, I sometimes have difficulty understanding. どんどんやってくると下向かざるを得ない。 You have to change glasses. Forward. This one is forward.
どうも見えないと思った。
The one that he can't really see.
彫るときに何が一番大事か、一番最初どうするかっていうのが一番最初の皆さんの疑問だと思うんですね。
Well, when you carve, you wonder what to do first. What would be the first thing to do?
まずどこから彫ったらいいのか。
Where
そうい
to
う質
start
問が
with,
もうほとんどですね。彫り始めた方。
particularly with the beginners. That's
やっ
the
ぱり
question.
今の話に連動するんですが、僕はいつでもまず鼻をちゃんと彫りなさい。
You'd always tell students to carve nose first, to shape the nose first.
私の場合はその人間の被写体というか、この作品の心というかな、それを表したい。
He
何
wants
を考
to
える。
express the emotion of the piece, the lady is depicted.
その時にどの角度に顔を向ければ、あるいは曲げれば、一番その感情が出るかということに心を砕くわけです。
Which direction the face should look in order to properly express the emotion that he wants to express.
ですからその時に何のあれもなく真正面にこういう顔になってますと、
This one is looking straight.
要するに何の感情も見たかったのが かないわけですね。
There's no emotion.
出
You
来上がっ
just
ても
don't feel anything.
ところがこういうふうに顔が曲がってると、これは何を、傾けているのかということを見た方が自分で、いろいろ想像をして判断をしてくれる。
If the head is tilted, then viewer would think, oh, what is she thinking? What emotion the artist wants to express?
これが意外にできないというのは、顔を曲げるということ、あるいはひねるということの難しさですね。例えば、
It sounds easy, but it's really difficult to do.
例えば人間、前を向いてとか上を向いてるだけでは大した意思が通じない。
Just don't show any emotions or feelings if you're just looking up or down.
ですから私の場合ですと、例えば、横を向く、少し下を向く、
Once again, look to the side and then
考
down.
え事をするように、あるいは人を思うためにはちょっと首をかしげる、ちょっと首をかしげるということで作品がパッとできる、感情が、
If the woman is, say, thinking about somebody, she go not really straight down, but this way. That's the way she's doing. And then, if he could express it in carving, then the viewer can perceive it.
ですから一番私が苦労するのはどの程度のバランスを取りながら、というのは顔だけ彫ってるわけじゃなくて、実際は体との連動なわけですね。その時に放って彫らせてるとみんなそうなんですが、顔をこっちに向けたつもりが出来上がったら真正面向いてたという、そういうふうになるのが通常なんです。
Stop. You can go on forever. Then I forgot what to say. ちょっと待って、なんだっけ。まっすぐ。まあ斜めにしたいんだけど、他との関係でまっすぐ。Well, even if we try to carve the tilted head, because the head has to be carved in relation with other parts, like neck or the head or collar, then if you keep carving, it just somehow goes straight. It just keeps looking straight. So then he has to intentionally make it carved, kind of tilted.
これを見て通り、まっすぐな顔ですと、もうあんまり感情の振幅がないわけですね。
The face looking straight doesn't show much emotion.
この曲げてると、見た方が自分なりのいろんな人生とか、いろんな考え方とか、そういうものに見比べて、これはああいう時のあれに似てるなとか、そういうものを思いはかるわけです。
The head is tilted in some ways. Then viewers could empathize it or relate to it and think what kind of emotion she's trying to express, or maybe something that I've expressed.
これは芸者さん、
This is the face of a geisha.
これは平安時代の
This is the face of a court lady,
娘さん、
young lady.
そういういろいろなシチュエーションというかな、そういうものに合わせた顔を彫らない。
Plans kind of situation or who that is, and then plan the design.
ですから、ちょっと同じものを彫ろうと思ったら、やっぱり顔の向きがここにあるので、これにまず照準を合わせる。
So he decides on the design and the face, the angle of the face. Then he starts carving.
そこに鼻筋がこっちに曲がっていれば、で、そう出来上がりですね。
This was the plan he made. Then he would draw a line like this, like a straight line from the nose to the mouth, from the forehead to the chin.
普通の人っていうと変だけど、普通はこう前を丸くやっちゃうんですね。
because the
こういう
face
ふうに
is
丸
round,
くやっちゃう。
people tend to make the face round.
そうすると鼻が出ない。
Then it's hard to
もう
make
こう
the
いう
nose
感じ
big.
からはなかなか立体的な顔を彫ることができない。
It's hard to make a three-dimensional face out of this round
そした
shape.
ら、鼻の線をこう曲げたら、その鼻の線の通りに向きを。こ
After
れ
you
でちょっと
decide
こういう感じで彫っていく。
the angle, then rather than carving round, you carve like this shape, to make the nose stick out.
人物の顔の難しさは、それをやってもそれだけで済まない。みんな髪型があるわけですね。髪型、着物、全部あるわけです。それとの連動でもって成り立っているわけです。
The hardest part is, carve the nose in relation with other parts, with direction of other parts of the face.
これなんかでも結局は、顔はこっちに向いてるけど、着物はこういうふうになっているかもしれない。そこをどういう設定にするかっていう、作家の一番大変なところ、ね、しかもユースケはこれ顔でかいからまだいいんです。
These are really large,
Yeah.
face of the
Yeah.
Netsuke. Netsuke, the
例えばそ
original
こにあ
size
る
was much smaller.
こちらの、はい、この鳥追いの顔を見てください。
This is the actual piece
もう
in
本当に 小指の先にもない。
If you look at the face is much smaller than this.
ですからそこでいろんなことを着物とかポーズですね、この全体のポーズ等を勘案しながらどちらに向けてどういうふうにする、それがまずはい、この鳥追いという図、これに対してどうして曲げていかなきゃいけないかっていう理屈は、例えばこういう図を作った時にただ着物、頭あったそういうものだけの関連ではないんですね。この正確、図のこの被写体というか、それの境遇というか、そういうのまでが出れば、それは作者としては最高なわけです。そういう全てのことが整って初めて人の心を打ったりする。
When all the pieces are put together, like the direction of the face, or the kimono, or the things that she has, the pose and everything, when everything is nicely fit, then the viewers can tell or think, oh, what is she, what does she think, and even what is her background. Like this is a torioi, this is a torioi, and it's a woman entertainer. But her family must have been poor or something, and she had to support herself by doing some entertainment, city to city, and playing something. And so it's kind of a sad background that she has. So he wants to express that kind of emotion with that piece in that small size.
こういう時にその心が見てる方に伝わるようにする。そしてこの小さい中にそれを詰め込まなきゃならない。それが作家としての苦しみですね。
So hardest part about with the cover is that you have to put all these elements into one compact next.
ですから5センチぐらいのところに
Only 2 inches
こ
high.
の場合だと全部人間の体から
So all the body
ポーズを作らせたその心まで
and
表
even
せると
mind
いうのが一番
to
の
these
我々の
pieces.
苦しむところ。
That's the most difficult part.
これがうまく現れた作品がいい作品というふうに作者も
When it's successful, that's the successful piece.
ですからこれも娘の環境とかそういうものが現れたらそういうふうに理解していただけたらもうこの作品は成功したと
If the
いう
viewers
ふうに
can
私は
tell or understand the life of her, then the piece is successful.
そしてこうぐっと回して、
デモンストレーションみたいな。
はいはいはい。大丈夫。それじゃあ。
I told him that this is a demonstration event, but explanation event.
その発表会。
This is his presentation, so he can do whatever he wants. I shouldn't interfere with him, but
まあ悪い口論だよ。
we're not arguing. I mean, it's discussion.
今日もこれ何回もやりました。
We have done this already, you know, many times, maybe in 2 or 3 hours before we have already done this.
もう話せば長い。
Because there's so much to say. I mean, you know, we can't do this in half an hour, an hour.
材料のこと、それからそうこのヤスリのこ
Or
と、
file.
小刀のこと。
And these are the hidariba or left blade carving.
こういう左刃というのはこうやってまずいきますね。そう聞こえたか分かりました。総理。
You can speak English actually.
いや時々英語が出てくる。
Sometimes English pops up in his mind. Well,
こう持って
inches
ここと
the broad part of the carving knife with the thumb of the left hand and the middle finger of the right hand and the thumb of the left hand as pivot and you make a rotating.
そしてこういうふうにね。初心者の人に教えるとただこうやってやっちゃう。そうするとただこう吸ってるだけ。
Moves like this, but it's supposed to go this way.
僕らも習った造形彫刻というものは硬いですし、木の彫刻のようにのみは使えない。
He's trained as an ivory carver, and then because ivory is really hard, it doesn't cut into the material.
ですからこするようにして。
So you have to scrape it on the surface.
それを効率よく削るためにはこうやったものをそのままこうじゃなくて。
To efficiently do it, you kind of move from the bottom to up. This kind of move.
ですからそういうふうな作り方でだんだんやっていくから時間かかるんですよ。
It takes time because it's scraping rather than cutting of the bottom.
じゃあヤスリで、この顔の一番最初の肝であるもう喋ると長くなっちゃうんですがこのヤスリの
It's gonna take long if we explain in full, but cut it short.
ヤスリのことだけでももう何時間かかっても語れるぐらいのストーリーが。
Talk about the parts for hours
で
and
小刀に至っては今僕は全部自作です。
hours. With carving knives like these, he makes these by himself.
手にはめる鋼材から全て鋼材は買いますけど
He buys the steel rods, but other than that, he makes this handle part and also the blade part as well.
でこういう台も自作し
He
て
also makes the carving post.
ちなみにこれは薬杉
This is made of yakusugi, if you know.
杉の木の中では最高級。
Cedar from Yaku Island. It's supposed to be long.
また脱線しそうなんでお
Well,
願いします。
he's getting sidetracked again. So get back.
こうやってこう方向を決めますね。例えば、今これもやってると同じようにこれと同じような感じにしてみたいと思うのでこういうふうに斜めの向けたものを適当に一生懸命計算をするわけです。だけど、
get rid of it. This,
前髪。
this is the hairline for
こういうふうにこう額があって分けつながって、ちなみにまた脱線かな。この部分っていうのはちょうどこういうふうになる例が多いんですね、日本人はね。
Japanese tend to have the hairline shaped like this.
そういうのを富士みたい。富士山に似てるんで、
It's
富士
going
の
this
下
way and then it's called
いうわけですね。
Mount Fuji
そう
for it.
ですからこういう、そうなんです、本当にそうです。
That's true though. It's not lying.
だからこういうヤスリもこういうふうになったヤスリありますよね。
And this one is shaped like this. This is a cutting.
これの名称は富士山で
This
す。
is
名
the
称は
back
全
of
部山に
this
なって
file
る。
is like this, and it's also called Fuji.
何でも富士山作っちゃ
Well, we love Mount Fuji.
言葉です
Everything is fine.
そこで、こういうふうにしてまず絵を描いて図を描いたらどこに今髪の毛が出てる目がどこに行くか。
Then after drawing, it's the eyes that he draws.
こういうふうにすると全然違和感なくなんとか顔らしく
Really looks like
なっ
a
て
face.
これに近くなってきますよね。
It's getting closer.
そうするとそれに向かってこのおでこのまずこの鼻の根っこ、鼻の
The
元です
lowest
ね。
part of the
鼻の元を出すわけです。これ出さないとどんどん顔が下へこういっちゃう。
Otherwise, the face would be down. So he first
元
defines
は
saddle of the nose.
これが非常に僕の場合も度胸がいるんです。
It really takes a guts. Like you have to define something at the beginning.
もう小心者なんでこれをやるときだけはハラハラします。
He is so kind of scared and nervous when he does that.
で一応富士山が出たら今度鼻を
Then he
鼻の
carves the
なん
side
と
of
な
the
く
face.
これもいっぺんに出すんじゃなくて
Little by little.
なんとなくこの幅が出るように、
Loosely define the nose.
というのは人間の鼻っていうのは家帰って鏡を見てご覧になると分かるんですが
If you look into
ここ
the
だけ
mirror,
突出してるんですね。
the nose really sticks out.
これを抜きにして考えるとそれこそ日本でよく言うまんじゅうに目鼻おまんじゅうにこう目鼻がついてるような
If you don't think about it, then it's like being face bun and the nose, just attached to it.
ですからそのサイドをこうある程度取ってきれいに取ってあげないと
So you have to get rid of these parts
この突出した鼻の元ができない。
to make the stick out.
もうこれでこれやっただけでこのここ鼻の根っこを元を取って鼻の両脇を下げてあげるともうこれ見ていただければ分かるんですがもうなんとなく顔らしく
Okay, it kind of looks like the face. Vaguely.
そしてこの時に少し大体の線ですけどこういうふうにして鼻の下を高さを調節して
Define the bottom of the nose. Decide what the length of the nose.
そうするとこの今のこの顔の原型が出たことが分かる。
Then you see the face is generally getting so big.
ですからこの鼻をいかにちゃんと出せるかもうこれが今後の顔の特性をむしろ決めてしまうくらい
So defining or shaping a nose is the most important part of the face. That really defines the future of the face as well.
ですから鼻を出す時だけはもう本当にもう命がけになりますね。
So he's almost like risking his life.
それとそれから人間の骨格っていう顔の骨格この部分の R カーブの
Think
図で
about
す
the
ね。
bone structure of the,
うん。
the face.
と、それからこの全体のカーブの円がの中心大きさが違うんですね。この方が大きいこっちの方は小さい。まあ円形の方もいますけど、大体の標準はこういうことになる。そして鼻のこのてっぺんから人間はこの顎の方に向かってなんとなく肉が落ちてくるようにするということはこういうことですね。この鼻の頂点に向かって
It's hard to explain. There's little, not meat, but little fresh. Oh, thank you. Little fresh.
それをちょこちょここう修正しながらやっていくわけです。
Then he makes more adjustments all the time.
そうすると大体これの原型がますます出てきたと。出てる見えない。
Doesn't show well. もうちょっと
そうするとね、はい、そう。これに今度はこの棚でこの鼻の両脇を
get rid of the flesh out here beside the nose with carving it.
目をある程度出さなきゃならないんですね。
And also carve the edges of the eye.
なんともデリケートなんです。
So it's a delicate work.
これもこうやって見てご覧になると分かるんですが、この目の位置を下の方にするか上の方にするかでもう顔がもうガラッと変わっちゃう。
The face would look very different if you place the eye lower or higher.
こっちでやったのとこっちでやったのと顔つきが全然違っちゃうわけですね。見える？わかんないです。とにかくもうちょっと見てください。これでかいからまだいいんですけど、
This face is really large.
これが本当の根付サイズ。
If it was a real Netsuke size,
場合はもう
so much more
寿命を
difficult.
縮める
And his life is shortened by now.
ところですね。僕らは。ですからこういう時にはもう何事もシャットアウトして顔だけは覚えます。
So he doesn't want anyone to be near him in Carv's face. One Netsuke? 一つのNetsuke作るのにどれぐらいの期間？
もう僕はね、一番若い頃はね、二月に3本ぐらい作ってた。
3 pieces in 2 months. That's really quick.
今の人でも、早い人は2週間で仕上げちゃうし。
Maybe faster
だけど今
artists can make maybe one Netsuke in 2 weeks.
僕は1個作るのに2ヶ月かか
But
る。
now it takes 2 months to make one Netsuke.
年取ったせいもある。
Probably because he's getting old.
体調が悪いと思うため、もうそういうふうに常に揺れ動いてます。そういうふうに能率というか。
The pace is kind of changing all the time. He's 38, I mean 80, 38. Sorry, 83 years old. If you have any questions, please ask.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting when he talks about the angle of the head, and what it reminds me of is when dancers in the Onagata Kabuki tradition talk about the exaggerated poses they use to project hyper femininity. Would he consider himself influenced by Kabuki Onagata actors?
強調してどんな歌舞伎の女方から
ちょっとね、やっぱり例えば、
Yes, yeah, of course, yes.
例えば手さばきですね。手さばきなんかも歌舞伎の役者さんは研究をしてますよね。
Because they really study
手を
what
こういう
pose
離さないと。
would make
い
it
つもくっつけ
more
て
feminine.
手の大きい人は小指を少し内側に入れ
They
るぐらい。
don't really spread the
Tiny
fingers
banana.
like this. They would, keep them close and also,
小指を離さない。こういうふうに離さない。だからもういつでもこうくっつけて
this
小さく見せる。
and keeps it really small. I mean, small looking, hand.
だから何かを掴む時でも
And
こうや
even
って掴まない。
they don't
必
hold
ず
it like this.
手をこういうふうにしてちょっとこう上げ
Like
て。
this.
ですから打ち合うでもみんなこうですね。
So
全部
the
がこういう
fan
感じで。
would be held like
ね
this.
それを彼らは俳優は徹底してます。
The actors really study
だから僕なんかも
keep doing that.
処方する時の手というのは優雅に見れるように
So he tries to make the hands of his carving
もう
look
何かを
better.
杖を持つにしてもこうやって
Even
持
if
たない。
the carving is
こういうふう
holding
にやるとこれだけで
something,
女らしくなる。
holding
それ
in
から
a
こういう
feminine
ところ
way,
に手をやる
or
ことも
with the
こういう
face,
ふうにこうやって
the hand to the face.
男っぽく
This would look, makes it look like masculine. So if you carve it into this or
こういうふうにして
this way,
皆さんよくわかるでしょうね。こうやっていろいろこうこうやってこういうふうにしたりね、こういうふうにしたりこういうふうにしたりね、やるとなんとなく女優さんみたいな。
it would look like an actress.
だからちょっと鏡の前でこういうふうに試してみ
So please, you guys, please try in front of the mirrors.
こうやって
Makes it really feminine.
常識なんですよ。女っぽく見せる。で男っぽく見せる場合には肘を上げて
If you want to make you look more masculine, then with the elbow,
何か刀を使ったり
like when you use
男っぽい
sword,
腹元の
that's called aragoto or rag.
歌舞伎の場合はね、そういう決まりの別にそれに準ずることはないんですが、その気持ちだけは忘れないように、私も女性をやるときにはもう手をやる場所みんなもうこういうふうにガツンと持たない、できるだけこうグッとこうやるね、みんな、
Gripping like this,
袖を
something
腕を持つにしても
masculine, but
こうやるときもありますけど、それは
when
今までも全体のポーズの中でやる
deep,
と
then
単独でこういうふうにしない、そういう常に心がして
this is not a fixed rule, but he tries to follow kind of tradition. With more of
あと
other times. お気に入りの材料とかは
まあこだけの話、道具は好きですけど、今の世の中はもうそれは、
likes to carve ivory, but because of the time and the situation, please keep it.
ですから、ただどのような欠点もあるんですよ。取るときには、なんていうんですかね、透明感があるわけ。半透明、肌が半透明。
Difficulty in carving ivory
こういう
as
表
well,
面が見えにくい。
because it
こういう木は
反射しちゃう。
はい、反射してると吸い取られちゃ
The light is kind of
う。どこに面があるかわかんない。
not really because of the world, but light is absorbed. Like you, the light is absorbed into the material, so we can't really see the surface very well. So it's kind of questions.
Our intern Asha will take your questions. So if you have any questions, can you kindly raise your hand?
Just thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask if there were any female Netsuke carvers.
もう最近ものすごく多くなりま
Yes,
す。
the number is increasing recently.
前と違って、女性作家の増加はもう目を見張るようです。
It's really surprisingly increasing number, but the money.
プロになってる人ももう5人はえ日本人そうそうゴルフにまさみさんがいられますそれから僕の今の教室の生徒さんの中に2、3人
Well, there are some artists who have been carving professional for many years, like Sakatsusami or Mikaida Yoka, and there are also some more who have become professional who are studying my father's carving.
習いに来ている人の中にも女性は大変多いです。
There are many students, women, female students, we have many.
よろしいですかそれから今のマテリアルの問題なんですが
Back to the question.
表現は確かにその反射を彫るのにちょっとねいいところは経年変化というかな年月が経つといい感じに、変化していく
Difficult part about carving ivory is that it absorbs light and difficult to see when it carves. But good thing about ivory is that it changes along with time to a better color and patina, as we call it. So it's one of the good thing about ivory.
その点が長年にわたって人気の秘密だと思い
And
ます
that's one of the reasons why ivory has been a popular material.
あと代替品としてのマンモスあるい
And
は
also
ね
we have
なんか
adapted
は
materials like mama caps.
その時はいいんですがやっぱりその経年変化っていうのに少し弱いですね いい色の変化
carved and finished, but as time goes by, it doesn't grow as good as ivory. That's the difference.
その点が大きな違いでしょう
It's the biggest difference.
あと木の場合はもともとのその評価の仕方が違っちゃうんですね評価そのよくいいとか悪いとかそれからやりやすいとかなんとか評価がなんて言ったらいいんだマテリアル木の話木とかマンモスとかね特に木は木独自の評価の仕方があって造影とかなんかのと一緒にはできない出土してね
As for wood, wood is so different from tasks or materials, so it's difficult to compare the variety of evaluate what's better and what's.
次の人
So the last question. There is a
ここでもいいですか。
はい、お願いします。
In Japanese.
I said please.
作品を作られるときにその結果のこういう作品を作りたいという方向から入られるのか、それとも素材そのものにこう刺激を受けてその素材に導かれて作品を作られるのか、どちらをなさるのかちょっとお伺いしたかったんです。お願いします。
Her question was whether he would carve, he would plan a certain design and carve toward that goal, or he would be inspired by the material.
これはうちの話でちょっと言いづらいんですが根付の面白いところ逆に言うと面白いところなんですが最初に決めた題材からどんどん変わっていっちゃう。
Well, maybe interesting thing about Netsuke is that even if you planned the final goal, it just keeps changing as you carve.
ちっちゃいところに彫りますので、もう本当の小刀の一振りで、イメージも変わるし変わっちゃうんですね。その時に最初に思った構図あるいは感情だけをに固執しているとね、もう全然笑い顔にしたいのに泣き顔になっちゃったり、しちゃうわけですよ。
Before I forget on this, because Netsuke is such a small carving, just one stroke might change everything. And he wanted to make a smiling face with one stroke might make it crying even. So so you kind of have to, you can't really stick to one idea. You have to be flexible to all these changes.
今はむしろそのネスケのその自由さみたいなものを大事にして、どんどん変化したら変化させちゃう。それで、これもまたちょっと言いづらいことなんだけど、題名まで変えてしまう。最初の意図と違うよ。
それもよしと。
変えるのを意図的にやって、で本当は、笑い顔を作りたいのに、なんとなく泣き顔に見えちゃったら泣き顔にしちゃう。
He even enjoys the changes, and then if he started out as crying face, a smiling face, and if it turns out to be a crying face, then so be it, make it into a crying face. And he even changes the title of the carving of Netsuke.
そういうものの考え方まで全てを自由にしておくっていうのがネスケ彫刻の僕は魅力だと思います。今
So he kind of set himself free, from about the idea, and just let it develop as it does.
変わるのを恐れない。
So he's no longer afraid of the changes.
もうちょっとやっただけで、ガラッと変わっちゃうんですね。
It really changes you just a little bit of stroke.
それを普通に固執してると、もう行き詰まっちゃうんです。
If you stick to the original idea, you just get stuck and
これ
can't
だけなんだって
really
いう感
complete.
じ。
So keep changing. It's just like, that's Netsuke.
むしろこう自由なこう心が生まれていいんですね。ですから、箱書きなんかもそうです。
It really gives him freedom. Whatever he wants to call it. And it really affects him. Ah.
箱書きも、まあこれはまあ僕のね、
This is the original box for Netsuke, and he writes the signature with me, and he put the seal on it.
その先ほど言った自由さっていうのをこれにも応用してるわけですよ。っていうのは僕字下手なんです。
Well, the freedom applies here too. He's really bad at writing. He's bad at calligraphy. He really have hard time doing this.
酒飲んで、えいってわけでこう。
This straight line of the character Yanagi or Ryu, it is supposed to go toward this direction, but then if you see closely, it's toward the other direction. He did that when he got drunk, and he said, "Oh, why not this way?" And then, but it gained popularity somehow, and ever since he's been using the signature. You never know what's gonna work. It's very Netsuke-like thinking.
何事も根付けというものを前提に考えると、そんな楽しい世界ないんです。
So this is really an interesting, fascinating world if you think about it.
人生が根付け風に生きていく。
And his life is a Netsuke. これがおしまいです。